And my first thought was, who are they going to get to play Michael? And honestly, I didn't think of myself. I was like, this is going to be...
No one expected Bigi Jackson to be the one completely undone by Jaafar Jackson. He is the son who always stayed silent about Michael Jackson, the one who rarely shows his face in public, the one who spent his life hiding from the spotlight. But this time he could not keep his guard up. When Jaafar walked in, the room went dead silent. It was not just the resemblance. In Jaafar's every glance, every step, every gesture, people felt as though Michael Jackson was present once again. That was the moment that cracked Bigi open. After years of living with the memories of his legendary father, was this the first time he saw Michael come to life right before his eyes? Why did witnesses call this one of the most emotional moments since Michael Jackson died? The truth behind the story is far more extraordinary than what the public ever sees. Bigi Jackson, Michael Jackson's most mysterious child. From the very moment he was born on February 21, 2002 in California, Bigi never stood a chance at a normal life. His birth name was Prince Michael Jackson II, but the world knew the little boy as Blanket. That was no random choice. Michael Jackson once explained that Blanket was about covering and enveloping someone with absolute love and protection. That was exactly how he treated the youngest son he so deeply cherished. From early on, Bigi lived in a world light years away from ordinary kids. The massive Neverland Ranch was like a fairy tale theme park complete with private jets, heavy security details on standby, and a father known by billions across the globe. Yet that exact fame turned Bigi's childhood into a circus of unprecedented attention. In 2002, when he was only 8 months old, the baby inadvertently made global headlines. During a controversial moment in Berlin, Michael Jackson held Bigi over a hotel balcony, gesturing with him outside the railing to greet the screaming fans below. That image instantly horrified the world. A massive wave of criticism erupted. Many questioned the child's safety, and for the first time, Bigi sat at the center of an international debate before he could even talk. Afterward, Michael publicly apologized and admitted it was a huge mistake. But that event remained one of the most haunting images tied to Bigi's childhood. There was one thing many people constantly mocked Michael Jackson for over the years. He often made his children wear veils or masks whenever they appeared in public. Back then, plenty of people thought Michael was being overly controlling. But years later, people finally understood he was just trying to keep them safe. Michael understood the price of fame better than anyone. He knew the paparazzi could turn his children's lives into a living hell. He knew a child carrying the Jackson name would never have privacy like others. So he did whatever he could to give his kids a slice of normalcy. That is also why Bigi grew up with a personality entirely different from what the public imagined for the son of a superstar. He hated crowds, he loathed the attention, and he had absolutely no desire for fame. Then came the fateful day of June 25, 2009, the day the world lost Michael Jackson. But for Bigi, it was not just losing a legend. It was the day a 7-year-old boy lost his dad. No one could truly grasp how massive that shock was. Michael Jackson was not just the most famous celebrity on the planet. To Bigi, he was simply Dad, the storyteller before bed, the one who always found ways to protect him from the harsh world, the person he believed would always be there. But in a single day, it was all gone. At Michael Jackson's funeral, the sight of his children appearing before the public brought millions to tears. For the first time, the world saw the raw grief of the Jackson family, and among them was Bigi, the youngest, the quietest, yet the one who faced an unimaginable loss at far too young an age. After Michael Jackson died, Paris and Prince gradually grew accustomed to being seen in public. But Bigi chose a completely different path. He virtually vanished from the media, steering clear of the spotlight and living far more privately than any other member of the Jackson family. For Bigi, it was not about being cold. It was his way of surviving the crushing pressure of growing up under the shadow of the most famous father in the world. In 2015, he changed his nickname from Blanket to Bigi, That was more than just a name change. It was a milestone showing his desire to build his own identity rather than being forever tied to the image of that little boy from years ago. To this day, every time Biggie makes an appearance, it draws special attention. Not because he is seeking the limelight, but because the public remains endlessly curious about Michael Jackson's most mysterious child. Even though he is not pursuing a singing career or trying to become another Michael Jackson, Biggie has always shown a profound respect for his father's legacy. And perhaps that is why any moment that echoes Michael Jackson easily touches his deepest emotions. If Bigi Jackson is the most mysterious child of the family, then Jaafar Jackson is the name receiving the absolute most attention these days. Jaafar Jackson, the chosen one to recreate Michael Jackson. Born in 1996, Jaafar is the son of Jermaine Jackson, Michael's older brother, and a member of the legendary group the Jacksons. This means that from the very moment he was born, he grew up in a family where music was the language. It was more than just a job. It was his entire life. From a young age, Jaafar felt a pull toward the performing arts. He loved to sing. He spent hours mastering choreography, often shocking family members, with moves that felt like a tribute to Michael Jackson. People started noticing something eerily familiar about Jaafar. It was in his aura, the way he carried himself on stage. Everything felt like a mirror to his famous uncle. But Jaafar never wanted to be a carbon copy. He kept trying to carve out his own path in music, even though the public comparisons were always going to happen. Then came the turning point. In 2023, the Jackson family and their production team made it official. Jaafar was cast as Michael Jackson in the most anticipated biopic about the King of Pop. That news sent a shockwave through Hollywood. Some were surprised, but just as many felt that no one else could possibly capture that role like Jaafar. Behind-the-scenes photos went viral instantly. Millions were floored by the uncanny resemblance from their looks and expressions, down to that signature performance style. Yet that excitement masked the crushing pressure Jaafar now faced. This wasn't just a movie role. It was a mission, a challenge that would define the rest of Jaafar Jackson's life. And it was the exact moment that pushed him out from the shadow of the Jackson family and into the world's glare. The journey to becoming Michael demanded blood, sweat, and soul. For anyone else, stepping into the shoes of the King of Pop would be impossible. But for Jaafar Jackson, the stakes were 10 times higher. He was burdened with recreating a global legend, a legend who was his own uncle and the ultimate icon of the Jackson dynasty. Many assumed Jaafar had the advantage of his bloodline, but in reality, that heritage was a heavy weight. To turn into Michael Jackson on screen, Jaafar went through a metamorphosis spanning years. A journey so intense that the line between actor and character simply blurred away. Jaafar's prep didn't start when the Michael biopic was announced. It had been happening quietly for years before that, when director Antoine Fuqua and producer Graham King began the search for their lead. They were stunned by Jaafar's audition. He wasn't acting, he was living in Michael's world. That transformation began in a studio surrounded by mirrors and hours of absolute solitude. Jaafar had to relearn basic human instincts from scratch: how to walk, how to stand, how to tilt his head, and even how to breathe. Michael Jackson had a language all his own. It was a fusion of the grace of ballet, the precision of mime, and the raw, explosive energy of the streets. Alongside dance experts, Jaafar broke down thousands of archival tapes. They didn't just watch big shows like The Bad Tour or The Dangerous Tour. They went deep into behind the scenes, footage, private rehearsals, and even rare home videos. Jaafar had to train his body to reach maximum flexibility, just to execute a moonwalk that glided like water, or that legendary 45-degree lean in Smooth Criminal, a feat requiring technical support but relying entirely on raw core strength. Jaafar stood before the mirror for hours, repeating a single finger snap, a chin flick, or the exact way Michael pulled his fedora down to hide his eyes. He practiced until these movements became an unconditional reflex. If you think a musical film is just about dancing, Jaafar's journey proves otherwise. It is a grueling battle of endurance, much like that of an Olympic athlete. Michael Jackson on stage was a force of nature. He could belt out vocals while dancing at a frantic pace for 2 hours under blistering stage lights. To replicate that presence, without losing his breath, Jaafar took on a brutal routine. His day started at 5 in the morning with intense cardio to build stamina, followed by hours of weight training to sculpt that specific slender, yet toned physique Michael had in the 1980s. Immediately after, he dove into 8 hours of continuous dance practice. The workload caused Jaafar to drop so much weight that the crew had to hire nutritionists to keep him from physical collapse. Jaafar admitted there were nights he couldn't sleep at all. He would stare at the ceiling and wonder, am I damaging my uncle's legacy? The weight of the massive shadow of Michael Jackson, the expectations of the Jackson family, and the eyes of millions of fans worldwide at times pressed down on the young man's shoulders, leading him into bouts of deep anxiety. Yet it was precisely in those dark moments that Jaafar found the secret to touching Michael's soul. Jaafar once said, "When I stand in the mirror in the studio, turn the music on, and close my eyes, I don't see Jaafar anymore. I try to feel the pain, the loneliness, and the ultimate joy that Uncle Michael felt when he stood on top of the world. I have to give my entire soul to this." That journey of grueling discipline, sweat, and genuine heart created a miracle on set. When Jaafar stepped out onto the stage, unleashed that iconic yell, and nailed the historic spin, those watching just could not hold it together. They realized Jaafar was not just playing Michael. He had brought the spirit of the king of pop back to life. That moment, Biggie saw Michael in Jaafar, was the day the king of pop returned. When the biopic was announced, the world locked its gaze on Jaafar Jackson. But for those who knew the family dynasty, the real focus remained on the 3 children of the king of pop, especially Bigi Jackson. As the youngest and most private son, Biggie had always stayed far from the spotlight since his father passed. He kept his father's memory quiet and sacred. Because of that, the moment Biggie finally faced his father, recreated through his cousin, Jaafar, it was not just a news event. It was an emotional earthquake, a moment where the past and present blurred. It all started when early footage from the set leaked online. Instantly, it created a massive global wave of disbelief. Fans everywhere had to double-check what they were seeing. Truly, no one could believe it. From the slender frame to that signature long hair of the 1992 Dangerous Tour era, Jaafar looked like a perfect ghost from 30 years ago. In those shaky phone clips, even with the grainy quality, you could still clearly see every move, every chin tilt, and the way Jaafar stood on his toes with perfect precision. Michael Jackson's fan base is incredibly tough, but faced with these images, they could only gasp. It is haunting how similar he is. It is like Michael is actually standing right there. Seeing the public's shock, the Jackson family, the people who knew Michael best, could not hide their own reactions either. Despite early gossip about potential family rivalry or the crushing pressure of fame, the dynasty offered Jaafar their total and unconditional support. Grandmother Catherine Jackson, who has always fiercely protected her son's legacy, broke down in tears when she saw the first audition tape. She said Jaafar had brought her son back. Aunts and uncles like Janet, Jermaine, and Tito Jackson constantly visited the set to lift Jaafar's spirits. They didn't just watch. They shared stories about Michael's personal habits to help Jaafar refine every single move. The expectations on Jaafar were huge, but it was not a heavy burden. Instead, it felt like a powerful wave of family love carrying him forward. Yet behind the bright camera flashes in Berlin and inside the dark movie theater, a much more intimate story was unfolding. As the opening notes of Billie Jean kicked in and Jaafar appeared on the big screen, the whole room went silent. Sitting in a shadow, Bigi Jackson could not hide his feelings. Sources close to the crew say that upon seeing his cousin bring his father back to life so vividly, tears just started rolling down his face. It was an incredibly heavy moment. For the 15 years since that sad day in 2009, Bigi had grown up without a father. He only knew him through tapes, photos, and distant memories. But now right there, that silhouette, the smile, and that iconic gesture were real, vibrant, and alive. The longing he had buried for so long suddenly hit him like a storm. Bigi saw in Jaafar not just a performer, but the shadow of the man who once held him at Neverland, the father who loved him more than anything. What Jaafar did touched the whole family. Behind the fame is a heart of true respect. When the lights dim and the cameras stop, what defines Jaafar Jackson's success does not just lie in perfect spins or his similar vocals. What left the Jackson family, who have been exhausted by decades of media noise and lies, so deeply moved was the soul and the pure kindness Jaafar brought to the role. For Jaafar, this was never just a career move or a path to quick fame. It was a sacred duty, a promise he made to his uncle. In Hollywood, actors are often seen trying to own a character to show off their own ego. Jaafar did the opposite. He approached the project with deep humility. From the first day he got the script, Jaafar made a rule for himself. Never let rumors distort Michael's true self. He spent months working with the writers and director Antoine Fuqua to ensure that every small detail remained faithful to the real Michael. The Jackson family was profoundly moved to see Jaafar defend the private, sensitive parts of Michael's life. It was a fair and empathetic lens. He did not ignore the pain, the media pressure, or the grueling legal battles Michael faced. Yet instead of making it cheap drama, Jaafar portrayed the vulnerability of a pure soul, a soul misunderstood by the world. Jaafar's resolve stood as a shield guarding Michael Jackson's honor against the noise. It hit hard for Prince Paris and Biggie, the way Jaafar captured Michael behind the closed doors of their home. The public saw a titan, a king ruling over millions. That was the explosive Michael Jackson the world expected. But the family remembers a different man, someone with a soft, warm voice, a father who loved his kids, a brother who cared deeply for his own. Jaafar captured that true essence, those quiet, everyday moments. In every interview and public appearance, Jaafar maintained a disciplined, respectful tone whenever he spoke of his uncle. He never let ego take hold, always emphasizing one thing. Telling Uncle Michael's story is the greatest honor and responsibility of my life. That respect was not just in words. It was in the details on set. It was that pure love and deep reverence that moved the Jackson dynasty. They saw clearly that Jaafar wasn't acting for the paycheck or the Hollywood spotlight. He gave his heart and soul to vindicate the man and offer a final respectful salute to his great uncle, a man who gave his life to music but passed away in solitude. That is the miracle Jaafar achieved. It goes beyond any award. He brought healing to a legendary family. Michael Jackson's legacy continues. When Michael passed in 2009, many felt the world lost an irreplaceable piece of culture. Yet time proved the opposite. Michael left more than records. He left a living, breathing legacy. It does not sit in glass cases or on walls. It flows through the mindset and actions of the next generation. Jaafar Jackson appearing in this role is no coincidence. It is ultimate proof. The artistic flame and spirit of the king of pop are being carried forward brilliantly by those who knew him. To grasp this, look back at the massive legacy Michael Jackson etched into human history. What he left behind transcends the entertainer label. Michael redefined modern music entirely. Albums like Thriller Bad or Dangerous were not just songs. They were sonic revolutions fusing pop rock and soul. Michael elevated performance into visual art. The moonwalk and the gravity-defying lean. The military jackets, that single sparkling glove, they became eternal pop culture icons. Even today, stars like Beyoncé, Bruno Mars, or Usher carry a piece of Michael's performance philosophy. Above all, he left a message of racial harmony and global responsibility through anthems like Heal the World. He used his spotlight to illuminate the dark corners of poverty and injustice. Following his passing, Prince Paris Biggie and their cousin Jaafar chose their own ways to evolve the legacy. Though Michael is gone, his spirit is divided among these children. Prince Jackson, the eldest, chose to carry forward his father's humanitarian ideals. He graduated with a business degree and co-founded the Heal Los Angeles Foundation to support vulnerable youth. Prince is the grounded force, a silent protector for his siblings, and the manager of his father's projects. Paris Jackson possesses the bloodline of a free spirit walking the path of music and modeling. She does not chase pop stardom. Instead, she found her lane in raw indie folk. Through her art, Paris shows the sensitivity and emotional depth she inherited from her father. Bigi Jackson, the quietest of the youngest, found his passion behind the lens. Bigi loves cinema, thinks like an independent filmmaker, and has even produced his own short projects. He protects his father's memory by living with integrity, avoiding drama, and supporting his older siblings. And finally, there is Jaafar, the son of Jermaine Jackson. If Michael's children carry his humanitarian spirit, Jaafar is the one stepping up to recreate that ultimate glow. It is no accident that among dozens of cousins, Jaafar was chosen to be the face of this new era. Born in 1996, he embodies the Michael Jackson brand talent, work ethic, and dedication. Jaafar has a gifted range, high clear, and wrapped in an emotional vibrato that sounds like a young Michael. But it is his professional ethics that earned the most admiration. Like his uncle, a notorious workaholic who demanded perfection, Jaafar refuses to settle for half measures. He is the first on set and the last to leave, pushing through pain or exhaustion without a complaint. He has never complained once. Jaafar takes every note with real humility and a genuine hunger to learn. He does not see this role as just a paycheck. He pours his heart into understanding both the agony and the joy of Michael. That focus creates a unique energy around Jaafar on set. The moment he steps into costume, his eyes change. He is no longer the shy Jaafar of everyday life. He's an artist ready to catch fire and give everything to the audience. Many critics agree. Jaafar Jackson is not just another actor in a biopic. He is on a historic mission. He is the bridge between generations. He carries the Jackson name into a new era and introduces the world of Michael Jackson to Generation Z. Generation Alpha never lived through the golden era of the king of pop, but they will know it through Jaafar. The world is watching. Even though the star that was Michael Jackson has faded, the artistic sky he built remains lit by successors just as worthy. Bigi Jackson is on his own journey, accepting the past and stepping out from the shadow of loss. As time passed, the once timid Blanket grew into a mature, grounded, and composed young man. His time away from the media was not about running away. It was Bigi's way of building armor for his soul. He chose a quiet life, focusing on his schooling and nurturing his deep passion for filmmaking. The biggest change in Bigi is his mindset. He used to keep his head down to dodge the paparazzi. Now Bigi walks with his head high at every major event. That confidence is real. It does not come from forgetting the pain, but from finally accepting it as a part of his life. For Bigi, dealing with the memories of his father was a complex psychological hurdle. Michael Jackson is gone. That is the harsh reality he faces every day, staring at an empty room or old keepsakes. Even though Michael is gone, his legacy is everywhere. Bigi realized he could not escape the shadow of his father. Michael's music and influence are too deeply part of human consciousness. Instead of letting that legacy become a burden that holds him back, Bigi learned to live with it. He views his father's achievements with pride, completely free of the resentment a child left behind might feel. The Michael biopic and his cousin Jaafar transformation became the turning point in Bigi's healing journey. This film is much more than simple Hollywood entertainment. To Bigi, it carries a sacred weight. The movie is the ultimate tribute, a definitive answer from the Jackson family to those who tried to tarnish the honor of Michael. Bigi sees in every frame of Jaafar's film a deep reverence for his late father. Watching Jaafar recreate the grand brilliance of his father, Bigi feels as though he is stepping back in time. The film helped him piece together his own fragmented childhood, turning the pain of loss into the energy he needs to step into the future. Looking back, we can truly see the miracle and the profound meaning of this project for the Jackson family. This is not just a cinematic milestone. It is a reunion of souls, a historic event healing deep wounds that have lingered for 2 decades. Bigi Jackson, the quiet youngest son who always kept a safe distance from the public eye, finally chose to step into the light to support his cousin. This is family love in its purest form. It shows the alignment of the second-generation Jacksons in protecting the honor of their father and uncle. Sometimes what brings tears to our eyes is not sadness, but that precise moment we realize a legacy thought to be lost is being carried forward. It is burning brighter than ever by the hands of the next generation. Through Bigi tears and Jaafar devotion, the world understands that the king of pop never truly left. He stays alive, immortal and brilliant in the love of his children and inside the very veins of his dynasty. Please note that some opinions in this video are subjective and reflect the content creator perspective at the time of filming. They should not be seen as objective facts. Legends never really die as long as we remember them. If you want to help us keep these stories alive, please subscribe to Silent Legends. What is your fondest memory of this icon? Share it in the comments. I want to hear your stories. Click the video right here on your screen. It is a journey you do not want to miss. Until next time.